we will get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. But give me a sec. I think I need to open up my slide. It's for some reason not showing up. Okay, now I'm able to. Sorry about that. Something is not right. Okay, I hope you're able to see it now.
Ji, perfect. Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's get started. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radha Radha, good morning, good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to all of you. So let's get started. We are talking about Radha Tattva, and Radha Tattva is none other than the Yogamaya Shakti of God. And we'll pick up the shloka that we've been talking about and take it as a reference for our discussion today. So I will recite it. You're welcome to follow along. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudho yam nabhijanati loko mamajam avyayam. All right. Do you have any volunteers who want to take it real quick?
Sandhya, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Sandhya.
Naham prakashah sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudhoyam nabhijanati loko mam ajamavyayam.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you. What's next?
Rahul bhai, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah vijanati loko mam amavyayam. Radhe Radhe.
Ajamavyayam. All right.
Tiramya, Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah mudo yam napijanati loko mam ajamavyayam.
Wonderful. Very nice. Thank you.
Jyoti, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Jyoti.
राधे राधे नाहं प्रकाशः सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतिः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामच्च व्ययम्. राधे राधे.
Amavyayam. Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Jyoti.
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Sam. And you.
नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजमव्ययम्.
Very nice. Thank you, Sam. Let's
Riya
take
ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe Riya. Okay.
नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको मामजम् अव्ययम्.
Very nice. Thank you, dear ji. Last but not the least, Pragi ji, please go ahead.
Thank you, Radhe Radhe.
Uh,
नाहं प्रकाश सर्वस्य योगमाया समावृतः मूढोऽयं नाभिजानाति लोको माम् अजम् अव्ययम्.
Wonderful. Very nice, Pragi ji. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying, I'm not manifest to everyone, being veiled by my yoga, divine yoga, Maya energy. Hence, those without knowledge do not know that I am without birth and changeless. So, Yogmaya energy is what we are talking about. That is the energy which enables God to hide himself from us. Now, why does God hide himself, right? You may wonder. Of course, he'll reveal himself once we have the eligibility. He's too sweet and too humble just to come in front of you, okay? Only when you have, not only the eligibility, is not like he's too proud to come in front of you. He's like too humble. Okay, let the devotee first appreciate me and then I'll be able to come in front of you. Okay, that is his humility and his sweetness actually. So let's move on. We'll start with our soul soup segment. Talking of humility, let's talk about what do we have today. Now, we need a strong foundation for devotion. And what is that foundation? And the foundation is humility. You can build the palace of your devotion when your foundation is strong, and humility is the basic ingredient that is needed. If we don't have humility, if we have pride, the palace of devotion cannot be built on that. In fact, God eats pride for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we should refrain from pride, because that is the one of the most unholiest things we can do, building pride about ourselves. Now let's look at a story. So there was a gentleman. Okay, I don't know if you know this gentleman or not. So he was traveling in an aeroplane once upon a time. And when he was traveling in the aeroplane, for some good reason, he was drawing a lot of attention from people around. People were thronging to meet him, take his autograph, talk to him, just catch a glimpse of him, touch him, speak to him, share glances and all that stuff, right? And next to him, there was a gentleman who was sitting. Let's call him Mr. X. Okay, so this guy was casually reading a newspaper or a book, and he barely noticed him. Even though this guy was drawing a lot of attention, he was like, he seemed kind of disinterested in all that attention. Until this gentleman that you see on the screen, he asked him that, do you see movies, to Mr. X? And Mr. X responded, not much actually. No, I hardly get that. I don't watch too many of movies. Then this gentleman responds back and says, by the way, I work in movies. So he also asked, oh, that's nice to know. He says, what do you work as in movies? He said, I'm an actor. He said, oh, very nice. That's good to know. Until the flight finally reaches its destination, and like a courteous co-passenger, there are a lot of passengers who would just look at you and walk off, and there are good courteous passengers. So this guy, he greets his hand. He said it was nice traveling with you, although they barely exchanged any information afterwards. And he said, I work in movies, right? He had already told him that. He said, by the way, good traveling with you. My name is Dilip Kumar. Okay, that time he was a big star. And how about you? He asked him. He said, oh, that's good to know. And by the way, he said, my name is J.R.D. Tata. Okay, and he just walked off. So that was Mr. Tata at that time, humility. So when you are big, somebody could be bigger than you. And that is how we need to look at things around. If we are proud of building a small or a palatial house, think of Brahmaji, who has built this entire universe. So there's nothing to be proud of actually, right? Like Swamiji has explained. So this is a beautiful incident that Dilip Kumar narrated down the years. And we know what all J.R.D. Tata ended up accomplishing in life, right? There's another beautiful story about it where he was literally humiliated by the Ford Motors chairman. when he went to him to, for asking basically for a partnership or to bail out one of his projects, I think. And he said, what do you know about the car business? You just don't know any, how to build a car. And you're talking about this. And he was literally humiliated here when he came to US. Now, one easy response could have been to give it back to him, right? But Tata, he said, okay, I think maybe he's got a point. So he went back. He said, I'm going to build a car now. And I'm going to basically build a car for the middle class of India. Like Hamara Bajaj used to be the symbol of India when we were growing up watching all the ads. He said, I'm going to replace that scooter with a car that everybody should be able to afford. And he took on that project, and we all know he went on to build Nano. Now it exceeded budget just slightly. He promised that I'm going to bring out a car in under 1 lakh, within 1 lakh. And it barely exceeded that, but he delivered his promise. So much so that there was a stage, actually, he went and met the Ford, the same person again. And he actually brought I think the Land Rover company from him. And at that time, he actually bailed them out. And now he's the owner of that. And then Ford Motors chairman, he said, you are actually doing a favor to us. You're helping us out. So that was a befitting response through his actions, as opposed to venting it out on somebody. And J.R.D. Tata is, a lot of stuff basically that he does, and he keeps his nation first as well. And there's a lot of precedence of, some of the stuff that he does in philanthropy or otherwise as well. But that was the classic exchange that happened between him and Dilip Kumar. So humility is a virtue that takes you places in life. And this is one of the examples I was talking about. And it is even so more important on the path of spirituality, because God is, one of his definitions is called Deen Bandhu. When you consider yourself Deen, he is willing to grace you. He's not known as a proud Bandhu. Okay. So if you have pride, you are going further and further away from God. So Deenta, humility, with an understanding that, we are capable of achieving anything, but only with God's grace. Left to ourselves, we have absolutely nothing. That is the key virtue to have. And it is the ingredient that we need on the path of spirituality. Pride can rear its ugly head in different forms. We need to be very, very wary and cautious about it. That is why when somebody praises you, be very careful. We don't never know when our pride will rear its ugly head. Got to be careful about it. Now let's move on to our topic of our discussion today, our relationship with our Divine Mother. We've been talking about this concept. Now I'm going to talk about it a little more analytically today. So we know this is soul is our true identity, and which is the Shakti, or the reason to make the dead gross body, inert gross body, sentient. When the soul passes away, that is termed as death. So soul is the energizer of the gross body, and it is called the energizer. Soul is energizing. So body is energized by soul. Now soul is energized by super soul, which is called soul. And Shakti of soul is God himself. And super soul is basically Radha Tattva. Okay? That's another way of looking at it. Okay, so this is how it goes. Divine Mother, super soul. That is the relationship that we have with our Divine Mother. Okay, so it's soul. Now, if you look at it, the relationship is established like this. Body serving the soul. Soul is asking for happiness. Body is working in overdrive mode throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout the years, throughout the life, to get that happiness in a wrong direction, of course. So it is serving the soul. Now, soul, Paramatma, is actually, if you look at it, this relationship is both ways. First of all, we are not serving the God, but God is one directional serving is going on. He's serving us, right? In so many ways. He's giving us relatives, he's giving us food, he's giving us air, he's giving us everything. So one directional serving is happening. When we start serving him, he starts serving you back even more. And then between Paramatma and Divine Mother, as we saw, the Krishna and Radha Tattva are both. In case of God, his body and his soul are one. They are not different. Like in our case, our body is inert and our soul is sentient. In case of God, his soul and super soul both are same. Okay, both are sentient. And that relationship is bidirectional. Krishna Tattva serves Radha Tattva, Radha Tattva serves Krishna Tattva, and both are eager to serve each other. Okay, so this is how the relationship. Now, that's another way of looking at what is our relationship with our spiritual father and spiritual mother. Spiritual father is energizing our soul, and spiritual mother is energizing our super soul, God himself. Okay, the divine or the Yoga Maya Shakti of God. Okay, that's another lens to look at it. Now, Radha and Krishna, we have spoken about this, right? The bliss that they enjoy together, it is Nibrit Nikunj. Nobody has access to it. It's in private. Then the next is the Nikunjaras, which is enjoyed by Radha Krishna plus Ashtamahasakis. And then the next comes the Kunjaras, which is Maharas, which is the maximum seat a Jivatma can reach when they get the, Premanand. And some part of it we experience here at Earth as well when we are in progress or doing our bhakti. So the way it works is the highest ras, infinite ras, and then the semblance of that is the Nikunjaras, semblance of that is the Kunjaras, and semblance of that is the Bhakti ras that we experience through the saints here as well. Okay. Now let's continue. Let's look at now the divine ras. Divine ras or the divine bliss falls into two categories. Okay. One is called Brahmanand, the other one is called Premanand. Brahmanand is the ras or the bliss of moksha, liberation, nirvana, like they call in Buddhism. It is called Brahmanand. And then the other is Premanand, which is the divine love of God. Amongst these two, Premanand is much superior, much higher. And when you get Premanand, it's like when you go to some shops, you say, right, ek ke saath ek free, you buy one, you get another one free. So similarly, when you get Premanand, Brahmanand, you automatically got him. You don't have to try for it. Right? Brahmanand or the Mukti actually follows Bhakti Devi, and it is rejected basically. I'm going to tell you the stages of Bhakti where Mukti is rejected. Okay, you don't even care about it because you get it anyways, right? It is neeras, it is insipid in front of Premanand. So the moksha is something which is a good aspiration. Of course, it's a spiritual aspiration, but when it is compared to the divine bliss of God, it is insignificant. Okay, so for some people, it's like, oh my God, are you talking about moksha? It is insignificant. Yes, of course it is when you compare it with Premanand. Yes, Pratyusha, you had a question? Go ahead.
So what is the difference between mukti and moksha? Because you said that if a soul is able to reach the kunj state, then the moksha is taken care of.
Moksha and
And you're
mukti.
saying that bhakti is superior to mukti.
Mukti and moksha are both are same. Mukti, moksha is dukh nivritti, but anand prapti is premanand. You come from minus to zero when you get moksha mukti. But the divine ras of God you have still not experienced. That happens only for devotees who worship God in their personal form and who exhibit a desire to serve God. They get that privilege. Not everybody gets that. Okay.
So then in the kunj state, what does it mean
They
that
are all
it is
they are all premanand states. I'm not Brahmanand, not at all. They are bereft of all those stages. They don't get that at all. Okay, so I'm going to get into that. So let's talk about it. Now, within Premanand, you can enjoy different bhavs from Madhurya to Aishwarya all the way. So Vatsalya, Sakha, Dasya, Shant Bhav, they fall into that spectrum, not necessarily in increasing or decreasing order. We'll not get into too much of details in that. Now, what's Shant Bhav is the most distant relationship with God, right? He's king, I am his subject, like in Vaikuntha it happens. Then closer than that comes the Dasya Bhav, where you have a privilege to walk into God's palace and serve him. And that becomes Dasya Bhav, and that's from that point onwards, the Brajara starts. Closer than that is the Sakha Bhav. You can put your hands around God. You can, in Sakha Bhav, the Sakhas used to make Krishna their Ghoda also and kick him, and Krishna used to relish that kick. Okay, kick me harder. God is willing to become their friend and be kicked by their friends, and he relishes that. So that privilege Sakhas get, Das doesn't get that. And of course, the subject will not get that. There's a protocol, right? Now, if the servant sees as a Das, he sees that my master, when he's with his friends, he enjoys more putting his arm, when his friend puts arm around him, and I should do the same, that will not work, right? Because Dasya Bhav, there's a protocols that need to be followed. Sakha Bhav, and beyond Sakha is the Vatsalya Bhav. Vatsalya means now the mother has more rights. Mother can beat him up with a stick and tell, no, Kana, I don't want to see you doing this, or throwing tantrums and all that stuff. So Vatsalya becomes even more sweeter. And Madhurya, of course, Madhurya is the sweetest, where you can descend down in any of those bhavs, right? When you are beloved, that means you can exercise Vatsalya, Dasya, Shant, and even Sakha Bhav with that. Now, within Madhurya, there are three kinds of Madhurya: Sadharani Rati, Samanjasya Rati, and Samartha Rati. This is the proportion. Sadharani Rati, everything for self, 100% for self. That bhakti they do. Samanjasya Rati is 50-50, 50% for Krishna, 50 for myself, or 50 for God. Samartha Rati is completely selfless. Okay. Now, in case of rasas, the most distant ras is Dwarka as a king. The closer to that is the Mathura ras of Krishna. The closer to that is Braj ras of Krishna. Right? When you are enjoying Braj Leelas. Even closer than Braj ras is the Vrindavan ras. Even higher than the Vrindavan ras is the Kunj ras. Not everybody in Vrindavan got a chance to do Maharas. Even closer or sweeter than the Kunj ras is Nikunj ras. Of course, we don't have access to it. We can go as far as Kunj ras only. And even higher is called a Nivrit Kunjaras, Nikunjaras, which is only reserved for Radharani. Okay, so this is how it all goes. And these are all possibilities in Premanand only, not in Brahmanand. Brahmanand, like Brahmanand, it's like you have forfeited the opportunity to enjoy any of it. Na raha bans, na bajegi bansuri. It's like you instead of relishing the honey, you become the honey yourself. Instead of relishing the rasgulla, you become rasgulla itself. Okay, yes, Sandhya. Or not an ordinary rasgulla, it's a very spiritual rasgulla, but still, when you compare it with Premanand, it's like opportunity lost. It's called a bit of a spiritual suicide as well. Yes, Sandhya.
Is there a difference between Kant Bhav and Madhurya Bhav?
Shant Bhav.
There's a Kant as well, actually.
Kant Bhav, I don't know, maybe there's another terminology, at least I can't recollect it at the top of my head, but these are the bhavs. Now, if it is called Madhurya, another word for that is Kant, then it might be there, but I'm not aware of it. I can check it out. Yeah, but you can, it's not Kant, okay? You can Madhurya, you can actually reach up to Madhurya Bhav. Now, the Jivatma can go up to this level. Ashtasakhi Nikunj and Nibrit Nikunj Radha Krishna, right? We have spoken about it. And there's bhajan which they say, Lene wala bada bhola bhala, braj ke rasikon mein shamil nahi hai. So when you ask God for something, right? I need this, I need some kind of a wish list. Then you are not in one of the Braj Rasiks. You will be bereft of Braj Ras. In fact, you will get stuck at Bhakti only. At best, you will go to Mukti. Nothing more than that. Yes, Monica ji, had a question.
Radhe Radhe. So Nitin ji, highest is the Golok, right?
To the best of my knowledge and
Golok.
scriptures, yes, Golok. Ras.
And so where does Satlok stand? I was talking to somebody and he was talking about Satlok. Is there a Satlok also
Satyalok,
amongst all the lok?
Satyalok is also known as Brahmalok. Okay. And that is the topmost planet in the material realm. Okay. So when you talk about material realms, there are 7 layers in material realm, right? Swargalok, Ajanak Lok, Gandharv Lok, Brihaspati, and I think there are different layers there. And the topmost is called Satyalok, which is Brahmalok. But the unfortunate part is that is also within the material realm. It's not spiritual realm. Spiritual realm starts beyond that, right? When you talk about Shivlok, Devi Lok, Saket Lok, Golok, they are completely different. Satyalok is Brahmalok, which is in material realm only.
Okay, so there are gurus who talk about Satyalok and the disciples, and they follow and do all those kriyas. So it's clearly grace on people, let's say people like us who are exposed to Krishna, Sri Ram, who have opportunity to go to Saket Lok or Golok, right? So that also happens because of your past karmas, is it?
True. See, I find it very difficult to fathom, if people come in contact with proper knowledge, why would they even aspire for any of the celestial abodes or any of the siddhis or any of the kundalini jagarans or any of, but the fact is it's not so simple, I believe, to get access to the right knowledge. And even if you get that, for it to stick in your head and have that faith, right? Because you see that there's so many things, right? People worship pitris, people worship ghosts. There are so many variety in this world. But consider yourself fortunate that you have access to a bona fide knowledge, and then you are building sanskars and doing devotion, which will take you to the spiritual side and not limit yourself to anything on the material side. I don't know why.
So this is purely grace, right?
It is grace, of course, and possibly, yeah. I would see, a devotee always attributes everything to grace. Even if they have done something in the past life, they don't take credit for that. It's only God's grace through which He's giving us some kind of a prasad, right? So it's only through grace, and we should make the most of it. Yes.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Okay, so yeah, yes, Archana ji and Himanshu, and then I'll move into the other stages of bhakti, I think, that we spoke about. It's going to be interesting discussion. Let's take a couple of hands.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, sorry I cannot be on video. But what does moksha mean? Does moksha means going to Golok?
No.
I get confused.
Moksha does not mean going to Golok. Moksha means where you have merged with the Brahman. You have merged with the effulgence of God. Okay. It's like you always worshipped God as a light or a formless.
Got it. Okay.
And then you simply merge with God. That is, and then it is also called a dukha nivritti. So it's like, if you look at a graph, right? So let's say you are negative. Negative means you're in the material world, you are suffering, right? Then suffering is ceases to exist. The suffering, you come from negative to zero. So you can consider it as moksha. But there is a possibility to go from zero to a lot of positive. That has still not happened, but you have forfeited that opportunity. You simply merge with God, and that's it. You are done basically at that point.
Okay. So with moksha, it's Brahmanand and not bhakti.
That's right. It's not Premanand. And let me give you another example of, not example, an analogy, which is very powerful analogy that is used by Maharajji and Swamiji to explain the difference between the two. So let's say on one hand, you have an infinite ocean of Brahmanand, moksha. Okay. So what you do is you take a needle and dip it into that bliss of ocean, the ocean of bliss of Brahmanand. You dip it. Now on the tip of that needle, there would be a trace of that bliss, right? You know how much needle can, we only know that. Okay. So in that tip of that needle, you take that much of Premanand. Okay. If you taste that much of Premanand, you will reject that entire ocean. That is how it has been compared.
Got it.
Understand the difference between Premanand and Brahmanand. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much.
No worries. Yes, Himanshu.
Radha Radhe, everyone. I just wanted to quickly say about what Sandhya ji asked. I might be wrong. So Kant Bhav is almost similar to Madhurya Bhav, but it is based on the longing and affection towards God and not selflessness. So, and the second thing I wanted to just say that everyone is asking here, for example, about moksha part. So the amount of free will that has been given by God to us is such that, as Nitin ji has already explained in the earlier class, that Vedas are like a wish tree, right? So there are so many souls and everyone is so unique, as we are saying, that it's from our past karma that one can actually see if, and we don't even know if you are doing it with Dasya Bhav or Sakha Bhav. You only know that from inside, right? And as Maharaj ji says that the happiness that we get in Satya, like till Satyaloka, is like comparing a balloon, like when you blow a balloon versus out of it, like when you go out of materialism, it's like an atom bomb. So balloon versus atom bomb is like no comparison. So like we should also appreciate the fact that even if we are in Dasya Bhav, we are actually in that atom bomb category and not this full. And then we bhavs later.
Very true. Very true. There's no comparison between spiritual achievement versus anything which might be at the peak of materialism all the way up to Brahmalok. Very true. Great. So let's continue and let's talk about the different stages. Good to see faces. Akarsh, Sharma ji, thank you for turning on your video, and thank you, Sam, for turning on your video and coming back. Hope you're doing good. Now let's move on to the different stages of bhakti. Okay, this is where we're going to spend a bit of a time. So the first stage is called Kleshagni. Okay, Kleshagni, what happens in this stage is, this is the stage 1. Bhakti destroys all the sins. Bhakti will start destroying. So when you do bhakti, it starts destroying your sins. The stage 2 is Shubhada. And what does happen in this stage is, bhakti now starts bringing auspiciousness, happiness, and virtuous qualities in you. These 2 stages are within sadhan bhakti. We spoke about sadhan bhakti, where we are putting efforts and training our mind to think about God. Even though it runs in the world, it runs in the materialistic stuff. So we train our mind through bhakti. And these are the 2 stages that happen. First, your sins, they start getting destroyed, and the auspiciousness will start finding its way into your personality as well. Virtuous qualities will get nurtured. You will start harnessing your positive energy more than your negative energy. Right? What are the negative energy? Laziness, resentment, bitterness, anger, envy, jealousy, all that stuff starts getting subdued. And you start tuning into the higher qualities, they start manifesting in you. Now, what happens in stage 3? Moksha Laguta Krit. Okay, now what is this? What does it mean? It means at stage, bhakti brings on a disinterest in liberation due to lack of self-seeking. Now, moksha, believe it or not, it is a selfish desire. And say, God, dukh se nikal do hame, right? It is a selfish desire. Now, through bhakti, what starts happening is you have a disinterest in that also. You reject all that also. You lose interest even for liberation or self, because that is also self-seeking. And in stage 4, it is sudurlabha. What happens is devotee becomes selfless, seeking only the service of Lord. Very rare kind of bhakti, and these 2 are happening in bhav bhakti. When you cross sadhan bhakti, the peak of sadhan bhakti, when you have crossed that level, now God's yoga maya power starts coming in. You know, it starts mixing in your meditation, and basically now God starts playing with you through his yoga maya power. He starts giving yoga maya power to your bhakti as well. First, you were doing your preparatory bhakti. Now the bhakti is starting, you're getting mixed with yoga maya power of God. And that is where you reach these 2 stages, where you lose interest in moksha also. And only thing you want to do is to serve God. Then stage 5, it is called Sandranand Visheshatma, attaining the bliss of Premanand upon God realization. Now this is the peak of Bhav Bhakti. And Shri Krishna Karshini Sacha, basically it says God is enslaved by selfless devotee. These stages happen at the time of God realization. Okay. So these are the different stages of bhakti through a different lens. Now, pranay bhakti, raga bhakti, all that stuff, I can talk about it through another lens as well. But broadly, let's understand this. These are the different milestones or stages of bhakti. Okay. Most of the people, they are in preparatory. If you are, some of you are in bhav bhakti or you have realized God, I have no means to know that. Okay. So congratulations to that, but make sure we get some kind of a commission for that. If you're in bhav bhakti, good. That is also, so it also has stages around it. And if you're in preparatory bhakti, it's a way to check out what stage are we in right now, and we need to intensify it. Okay, so these are the different stages. Okay, let's hear if any questions are there on this. It's pretty interesting, right? Just to see what are the different stages and what are the different possibilities around it. Okay, let's hear now. And if you're realized or in bhav bhakti, please feel free to share experiences, right? If you have lost appetite or you don't feel the taste anymore, and things like that, you can always share with the group. Nobody's going to take it outside this group, right? What happens in WBG stays in DWFBG. So go ahead. I see 3 hands. Sam, go ahead. You are raising hand after a long time, so I'd love to hear from you.
Radhe Radhe. Ashta Satvik Bhav happens at which stage?
Ashta Satvik Bhav happens in saints. That means they are already God realized. Okay. Those bhavs manifest where even though you are God realized, there are times you are not able to hold back. That is how strong the divine intoxication is. When you are in this, basically in avatar kal, sometimes those symptoms manifest. That is like a sneeze, you can't control. Okay, but that happens only after God realization, not before that. It can happen only in saints, not in ordinary mortals.
That is stage 5 or stage 6? Stage 5 and stage 6.
It happens in stage 5.125. I don't know. It could be anywhere between stage 5 and 6, but the condition is God realization. Okay. Once you have realized God, it could happen. I don't know which stage specifically between these two, because these are at a broader categories, right? Within that, there could be a lot of subcategories as well. I'll explain it from a different lens in one of the other sessions so that we understand within these stages also what all you can experience. Okay. Thank you. Good question. Yes, Sandhya.
It means that if somebody who is God realized and he can also not be a saint, तो जरूरी नहीं कि जो saint है वो saint बनने दिखाए होए. He can be saint like any, मतलब getting the point what I'm trying to say, ask you.
Yeah, so saints typically are, you come to know about saints typically after they have left, right? Or you may not even come to know about somebody, right? There might be some people who have come here, might be saints, they are silently doing their sadhana, tapasya in Himalayas and they leave the body. So it's very difficult to know that. And no saint is going to put a board that,
I am a saint.
Golok return, 3 times Saket Lok, visa and all that stuff. They will never publicize that, right? So it's very difficult to know.
Thank you so much. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. Ashna ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Thank you. So how would I know that I'm disinterested in liberation? Because to start with, we never ask for any liberation, being if we are in the category of karma yogi.
No, so the thing is, liberation is like, see, when you start progressing on the path of devotion, then when Yogamaya power starts coming in Bhav Bhakti, right? Then your mind becomes single track at that point. Even if carrots are thrown along the way, which Krishna continues to do that, you are not interested. This thing is firmly convinced. You carry that conviction that my goal is just serving God, nothing else. Even if Bhakti comes in, even if the topmost power, fame, money, anything that comes in, anything less than God, serving God is not acceptable to me. You reach that conviction at that point, and that is it becomes intolerable for you. It's like a vegetarian would look at fish market. That is how you look at everything else other than serving God. That becomes your sole objective in life at that point.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Who's next? Sandhya, go ahead.
So I just wanted to confirm. So all these 6 stages are same for devotees in all the 5 bhavs, right?
True. Typically, these are the stages. This is how bhakti works. So it's like the pill, right? When you take a pill, first it will mix with your bile juice, right? And then it will become part of your bloodstream, and then the heart will pump it to the respective area. So this is how it typically manifests. When you do devotion, first your papas will start getting burnt, right? And God only has the algorithm. Okay, when your threshold of paps has reduced to certain extent, then the virtuous things will start manifesting more, and you start experiencing that bliss. Anyway, that happens. People who are doing seva or in the path of devotion, you start experiencing that bliss. And then he knows now you've reached a particular tipping point. Now it's time for you to transcend to Bhav Bhakti. God only knows that, but these are the typical stages people will go through, as explained in this particular thing. Yes, Pratyusha.
In the stage 4, when the devotees become selfless, seeking only the service of the Lord, is it kind of a sannyas thing, like where we are even bodies doing the action for God and the mind is also doing? Need not be like that.
Not sannyas. See, sannyas, we have spoken about karam sannyas and karam yoga. It is an internal state of mind. Right? So you could be a king and yet be in stage 4. So it doesn't matter that you have to be a sannyasi or anything like. You could be a householder, you could be an IT professional, or you could be a
Then, sir,
football
that is Karma
player.
Yoga, right?
Which one?
Karma Yoga, then. That is Karma Yoga, right?
It's an internal state of mind, right? Where basically the selfless seeking attitude is developed. So there's nowhere in scriptures it states that, if you reach a particular stage, then typically you would be a sannyasi or anything of that sort. Because sannyas is an
And
internal state of mind, not an external renunciation. Yeah.
another question is, what is the difference between self-realization and God realization? And when Bhagavad Gita, it is said that a self-realized soul is me only. That Krishna Bhagavan is. So what does that mean?
Which translation are you referring to, which says that?
Like I have Swamiji's Bhagavad Gita. So I have
Does it
read.
say that? Does it say that? No, it doesn't.
Yeah, somewhere in those lines that if you're like, I consider my devotees as my this only, like, as me only, something like that. I don't remember the exact translation.
Let me explain this concept. Glad that you asked this concept. So in Gyan Yoga, okay, let me clarify it, where you say Aham Brahmasmi, I am God. When you consider yourself God, which by the way is an erroneous concept, you're not God. If you were God, you couldn't possibly have come under the influence of Maya, because that means something more powerful is there which engulfed you. And then once you become God, realize what is the guarantee you will not come back again Maya, under the influence of Maya again. So first of all, you are not God. That understanding is erroneous. Now, because you are considering yourself as God, they say that when you realize your own self, you have realized God. Okay. However, Swamiji has explained it very clearly. When you have self-realization is not equal to God realization. Okay. Self-realization it's like this. I think he's given a very beautiful analogy. If you taste the drop of an ocean, of course, you don't need to taste the entire ocean. You know it's salty too. However, in that drop of ocean, you will not know the expanse and the depth of the ocean. Can you row a boat inside that drop? You cannot. So self-realization is a stepping stone, but it is not God realization. Okay. And when you do self-realization, you have still not conquered a lot of tattvas. I think the Mahan Tattva and the Ahankar Tattva are still not conquered. If you look at that hierarchy, there's a Vidya Maya and there is an Avidya Maya. Through self-realization, you might have conquered Avidya Maya. You can come up to a certain level, but Vidya Maya, for that, you need God's grace. So it's like you've just understood a drop, but there's a whole ocean which is yet to be understood. So self-realization is less than God realization. It's not equal to God realization. And God realization can happen only with God's grace.
And God realization means like someone sees a dream, probably. Is that, or like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, he saw Kali Devi literally in front of him. So what is God realization?
God realization is not what you call a moment in life, right? It's not a moment that you see a dream, or God comes in front of you. Occasionally he may come in front of you to tease you or throw carrot at you, or like that doesn't mean, oh my God, I've realized God. God realization is a state. It's a permanent state. Then that means you are beyond the ocean of Maya, this life and death cycle. And that means now you have realized what is there to be realized as a soul. You have realized your full potential. You are in perpetual bliss. You are in a perpetual knowledge, and basically there is no coming back to this material world. You are no longer obligated. And then all the afflictions of Maya, you are beyond that. That means panchaklesh, tridosh, tritap, all that stuff, you have gone past that. That is what God realizes. And then another thing that what it means is, now you have become godlike. There is no difference between you and God at that point. And you have gotten an upgrade, especially if you're doing bhakti. Then you got, like you do a phone upgrade, you have got a mind, senses, and body upgrade as well. That is what God realization is. Not an odd state which is like, okay, I saw God, so I'm God realized. No, it's a permanent stage. There's no coming back, irreversible stage. You may choose to come back as a saint to serve God, but you're no longer obligated to come back to this material world after that. And you have become God-like at that moment. God realization also means that you have become Yogamaya Yukt. We are talking about Radha Tattva, Yogamaya Shakti. God makes you Yogamaya Yukt at that point. You are not governing Yogamaya, but you are Yogamaya Yukt. Essentially, that entire Ishwari Shaktis, even in Yogamaya power, you can utilize it. That is what God realization is. God realization means done deal. Like, you have become a billionaire, right? Whatever is there to be gained at that point.
I have more questions, but I'll ask later.
Sure. Thank you for asking that. I'm sure a lot of people would have had this question, right? Now, people think that, oh, that person is God realized, I think, because he told me that he saw God in his dream. No, that doesn't mean God realization. Okay, it's a much deeper thing. Okay, let's hear. Do we have? I think we do have time. So yeah, another 12 minutes. iPhone, whose iPhone? Let's take, and then we'll come back to you, Manchu. Whose new hand this iPhone? Can you please tell your name as well?
iPhone. Radhe Radhe, can you hear us? Are you
Yeah,
there?
hello, Radhe Radhe. This is Kirti, Nitinji. It shows that iPhone, Kirti Desai. I had a question on this God realization. Like, who do we do bhakti to? Like, what form of God or
any god? Any god, Ishtadev, that you can connect with will result in God realization. It could be Shiva, it could be Rama, it could be Durga Mata, right? It could be Krishna, Radha, whichever god, Ishtadev, is basically priya or dear to you. If you deepen that relationship, they all can take you basically to God realization. The rasas, the mellow or the bliss would vary, but God realization is God realization, right? You could, even if you go to Shiv Lok or your Devi Lok or Saket Lok, you can go through that, right? So like Lord Ram, so many people went to Saket Lok with him, including Mother Kaikai, right? So God realization, depending upon your Ishtadev, you will go to their spiritual abode.
I see. Thank you.
By the way, we were celebrating Radhashtami and your name is Kirti. So, Kirti Da was the mother of Radharani. Okay, so
Yeah. So
but yeah, good question.
that
Thank you.
is also.
Sorry. No, finish your thought, please.
Yes. So I think you answered my question. So thank you.
Sure. So whichever is today, there's no stipulations there. Okay, God is God. So, Simanshu.
In the meantime, there's a chat from Purnima ji. She says, once you start loving God, He changes our heart. If we leave all our cleverness and believe and trust Him and love Him wholeheartedly, the bliss, joy, and peace we experience is beyond explanation. With heart emoji. We start seeing Him and hearing Him. Heart emoji.
Very true. I think one of the things that work against surrender is called Jim Bhav, where we try to act smart, right? God, basically with God, we have to go with a simple heart. Very true. God loves simplicity. He's himself so humble, right? So of course he likes like-minded people there as well.
And she said, thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Himanshu ji.
And please fill out the feedback tracker if you have more questions. Today is the concluding session on Radha Tattva, but if you have any questions that we have not discussed, please feel free to put it in the feedback tracker and we'll definitely discuss those. Yes, Himanshu, go ahead.
I was just saying that there is a very important point that Swamiji says that I think very less people realize, which is that, like, suppose we think that, oh, I will follow this spiritual path, I will follow all the Tattva Gyan, I will do everything and I will get God. But that's not right, because Bhagwan can only be achieved by His grace, and not with, we are not doing business with God. So even if we do like bhakti for endless lifetimes, it's not compulsory that He will grace us. It depends. So we should never take that for granted. And second point was, as someone was asking, like, which Ishtadev. In this interview, Swamiji gave this very good answer in Ranveer's interview, that all the forms have all the qualities. It's just that in which Leela, what power God wanted to show God just showed that, and that's why we like focus on any or meditate on any form, we will get the same result of that Param Brahm.
Very true. Thank you. Yes, that's correct. Thank you for calling that out, Himanshu. And you brought in a very good point that we rely on God's grace. And God's grace is something that cannot be purchased. If you say, if I've done so many of chanting, so much of tapasya, so many of recitations, and now I should get God's grace or God realization, then it becomes the price. You pay the price and get the grace. But that doesn't work that way. God's grace is priceless. You cannot say, I've done so much, so I deserve that. Right? We patiently wait for it. Yes, Preeti ji, you wanted to ask something?
Yes.
Yes.
Radhe Radhe Nitinji. Radhe Radhe everyone. A beautiful session and a beautiful series. Nitinji, this understanding of self-realization, I just penned it down in a line. Can you help me correct it or define it in a better way?
The understanding of Preeti ji, can you repeat that? I missed that part.
Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So I was asking, I have just written down what is self-awareness in one single line. Can you help me refine it or maybe add to it something? So I
Sure,
just
I'll
wrote,
try my best. Yeah.
so self-awareness is where we understand who I am, my values, and my higher goal.
So, who I am, my values, and my higher goal. Yes, higher purpose of life. Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up. Who am I? Right? Athato Brahma Jigyasa, Vedvyas has put that thing. So you pretty much asked. He said, now you shall inquire who you are. So I think you're already asking that question, and that becomes part of self-awareness. Right? No, that's good actually. In fact, I will share something with you which Swami has spoken about. There are different levels, right? Your self-awareness, I think 4 steps to self-mastery, and then
Yes.
your universal awareness, right? About this and all that stuff. But yeah,
I've
I think
stolen from there. I've stolen from there.
that's where, yeah. Thank you. It pretty much sums it up. Great. Thank you for bringing it. Yes, Sam, go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Who will be qualified to be who will be qualified as Swamiji's disciples? For example, in Bhakti also there is Aishwarya Bhav. People can just do sadhana and go to Vaikunt, or people can do only sadhana and not service. There are many people, right? Few do service, few doesn't do service. And Swamiji said service is the way to develop that selflessness. So in that love also there are stages like Samatha, Samanjasa, Sadharani. So which category of people will be qualified as Swamiji's disciples ultimately, eventually?
No, Swamiji is not
Those
put
who follow Swamiji can go to Vaikuntha also, do
Vaikuntha.
Aishwarya.
See, Swamiji has given us the complete set of knowledge that scriptures offer. He's not saying you are a disciple of Maharajji, or he's going to accept you only if you do this. He's open it up for us, right? So it really depends on us. The guru, typically it's a heart-to-heart connect, not a physical thing, right? They accept you and they are extremely pleased when we simply follow the path that they are telling us. Okay, when we follow their instructions and follow the path, they accept you as a disciple. That's all. Now, within that, if they have given you the entire theory and you choose to restrict yourself to Shant Bhav, Dasya Bhav, or whichever Bhav comes naturally, that's perfectly okay. They're not going to say, hey, I reject you now because you're not my disciple. Of course not. So it's only about aligning to the message and following their instructions sincerely. That is what guru wants and pleases a guru, and then they accept you because you're following their teachings. They're not saying within my teachings you have to follow this only, then only I'll accept you. Nothing of that sort. As long as you follow it and doing that, and even if you don't do seva, that's your choice, right? You will build. He has already told that if you don't do seva, then you will do sakam bhakti, right? If you simply enjoy relishing your sadhana, sitting at home and meditating on God, that is also a choice. He's not saying that you are not my disciple. You will end up doing sakam bhakti and you will build some kubja sanskars, and then also you can realize God. But he's saying, why not go for the topmost prize when you're going for it? So he's not put any stipulations as such, right? Guru Droh is something when you don't agree to their teachings, you listen to them and you do just the opposite. That's when that disciple-guru relationship is not established. But when you're following their teachings, that's fine. It's a framework they have given you, and it's your choice that you can make right within that. Make sense? Okay. We have 4 more minutes. Maybe we can one more thing. I think Rahul, go ahead. I think you raised it for the first time, and then a couple of announcements before we hand it over to the next session, because we have just 4 more minutes. Go ahead, Rahul.
I just wanted to play a 30-second video from YouTube, if you would allow. YouTube
Sure. Go ahead. 30. Yes, let's do that. I'm going to stop share for a bit. By the way, Diwali event is coming up, so please help us spread the word and cheer around for this. And Rahul is going to show something interesting to us. What is it?
Let me know once you can see the screen.
I can't
We
believe
can see them.
you're going to play that, huh?
दवाई है मेरी खोपड़ी में कितना टेंशन है तेरे को मालूम क्या दवाई है रे दवाई है मेरी खोपड़ी में कितना टेंशन है तेरे को मालूम क्या दवाई है रे
Okay. All right. So this is something I think this happens when you do Bhagavad Gita session and you have nothing else to do, right? In the middle of the night. So these kind of ideas come up. But nevertheless, let's make a few announcements, quick announcements before we hand it over. Any key announcements that you wanted to make? By the way, Thursday, hopefully everybody is preparing for it and taking, required notes, because it's going to be really competitive this time around. So yes, any last questions or any statements or any announcements you wanted to make?
We've only done that for the Diwali celebrations, and we have Ganesh Chaturthi at Arkity on 28th September. That's the last day. That's, I guess, tomorrow, day after, as Dallas.
And let's share the flyers also. We have some beautiful flyers for the Diwali Mela and other events coming up. So if we can share, we could probably put it on the screen as well.
I don't have. Sandhya or Rahulji, you have some flyers? Please share.
Some sessions as well, so no worries.
Yeah,
and then, is there any other announcements, Sandhya or anyone?
And before Diwali, we have the Ved Mela also, which is being organized first time in coordination with, I think, Tapas organization. So it is, I think, from October 7th to October 8th. The details are already in the chat, but I can share it again.
Sure. Great. Yes, Sandhya?
Yeah, just last thing to remind about this yoga teachers training online training program, which starts on 29 September. So still people can register if they want to.
Please do. Yeah, it'll change your life forever. So please do that. And please fill in the feedback tracker for any questions that did not have an opportunity to discuss about Radha Tattva. We spent about good 3 sessions on it. But if there is something which is still not answered, you can ask it. And we'll be happy to take that during the session. By the way, Surdas and Tulsidas were born in the same era, much after Treta. Okay, if you look at the chronology of events, it's not that they had to be Trikaldarshi at that point. Ram and Krishna Avatar had already taken place when they both came. Okay, with that, we come to the end of today's session. You can stay back for the next session. Radhe Radhe, good night, good day from my side. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time. Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
Over to you, Sunil Bhai.
Ajay Bhai.